When I was in third grade, my mom was diagnosed with melanoma skin cancer.
Now, at the time, I didn't really know what melanoma was, and I certainly didn't know what melanin was, but I think a part of me knew that cancer was not good.
At the time, I had never even heard of melanin or had any idea of what that meant.
Now, she first kind of got the idea that she might have cancer when she noticed a mole on her foot.
She went to the doctor, the local doctor, to go get a mole checked out that had been on her foot for about a month.
And it did turn out to be cancerous.
She got it checked out, and it was cancerous. She got it removed right
And
away.
after
They
she got it
actually had to
removed,
make
she
a
had this really
deep
awesome
gash
scar
in her foot. That was
like
about this
gaping
big
gash
around.
that my brother and I
maybe
just like
about
love
that
to look
deep.
at. Because like when you're a kid, there's this like voyeuristic fantasy that you like love looking
Honestly,
at videos
as a
online of
9-year-old,
people getting hurt or people
You
getting
kind
wounded.
of see an injury, and you watch YouTube videos of people getting hurt. You're like, that's really neat, really interesting. Like it's a story to tell.
And on top of that, it was really cool because she got to use crutches all the time. She had like a big bandage on her foot.
And she had crutches for quite a while, and that was also really fun because I got to take her crutches around, and play with them. And she was a little bit taller than me at that time. Of course, I outgrew her eventually.
Her sister also brought her this really big like body pillow.
And her best friend from high school gave her this body pillow because she was supposed to keep her leg raised so that she could have the blood flow like steadily back into her heart, so they keep circulating. And that was also fun to use because we would have little fights on like boxing matches with the body pillow with my brothers.
Stuff like that. Every once in a while our mom would be like, hey, that's what I need to get better, so, don't break them.
But she did kind of remind us every once and again that like this is not a toy, this is something that I need to use, so like don't break it, But it was nice having my mom at home all the time. We got to interact with her a lot more rather than having her at school. It was nice because I associated with my mom a lot more than my dad. I didn't really talk to my dad that much. He was more of the disciplinarian, and my mom was more the caring, motherly figure, and I associated with her so much more back then.
And what do you want me to talk about next? I don't remember what I was going to talk about.
What I can't remember what I was talking about before that.
Yeah, so my mom had the first test done at the local doctor.
She got another test result back, and they realized that the cancer had actually spread to her lymph nodes. It spread from her foot to a lymph node in her thigh, I believe. And at that point, they realized they were starting to get a little serious. That's kind of a typical progression is for the melanoma skin cancer to spread through your lymph nodes. And it's really easy to get spread throughout your entire body from there. So it's important that you get it taken care of right away. So we decided to go to the Mayo Clinic.
And it was up in Minnesota where we had some family members.
My aunt and uncle lived up there in Minnesota, and my aunt was a nurse at the Mayo Clinic. So we get to go visit them when my mom went to go to the Mayo Clinic for checkups. And we would stay at our aunt and uncle's house and have fun and play games and watch movies. And my parents would be at the Mayo Clinic, and then they'd come back, and we get to stay for a week in Minnesota, like get out of school for free.
When we eventually went to the Mayo Clinic, we'd get to spend time with family members. But I remember going to the Mayo Clinic was really interesting for me because it was the first time that I realized something might kind of be happening with my mom. My family and I, we packed up our bags, we went to the Mayo Clinic. At the time, we had this video game checked out from one of our local video game stores. I think it was called Mr. Movie. Soul Calibur 2, which is this really awesome fighting game for, I think, the PlayStation 2. I think that was out at the time. And so we packed up our bags, went to the Mayo Clinic. This is our first time, my brother and I joining my mom there. She had been there a couple times before to get some tests, but it's our first time seeing it. And, we kind of got showed around. We met the doctor who was operating on my mom. And I remember my mom was talking about having to dress in front of the
and
doctor.
I was like, whoa.
And I had this moment of like,
Other men
what?
seeing
Another
my
guy
mom
looking at my
naked,
mom
this is
naked?
like, I
That's
was,
my
like, kind of put
dad's
back.
job. And so it was weird, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, not everybody just looks at my mom naked, so it must be kind of serious. But that was really interesting. And it was also really interesting because there was people from all over the world, people dressed in burqas, and turbans, there's all these different clothing types. And as a little kid, I realized that people are coming from all over the world and that my mom is getting some of the best treatment imaginable here at the Mayo Clinic.
And it really made me think, like, this is a world-renowned place. Like, my mom's getting the best care she possibly can. And it kind of reaffirmed the fact that she's going to make it out of this, and it's possible to make it out of this. And then afterward, after about a week out of school, we got to go home. And then my mom and dad said that they would get the test results back on Monday. So sure enough, on Monday, I asked them, like, all excited, like, oh, so you get your test results back? Like, everything's back to normal now? You got the cancer out of your lymph nodes? You're fine? And they're like, oh, we don't actually get the results till Tuesday. And so I was like, okay, I'll wait another day. So go to school, and come back. And the first thing I say when we all come to the door is, Mom, you get your test results back? And she's putting groceries onto the table. And my dad's like next to her, and she just starts laughing. And she's like, I knew that he would be the first one to ask, and it would be the first thing he said as he came into the door. And I'm like, darn right, like I want to know.
And so the doctor had said they'd send the test results on Monday. And so, Monday after school, I came home and I said, oh, the test results in? And, my mom and dad, they were just kind of laughed, like, no, we're not going to get them until Tuesday, actually. So I went away a little disappointed. So Tuesday, went to school, that rolled around. I came home and, I came running in. I was like, Mom, did you get the test results? And she kind of she was there unpacking the groceries, smiling. She's like, yeah, we got them in. And, she was smiling. She said, I knew you were the first person going to ask me that question. And I just kind of looked at her. I'm like, well, duh, Mom, of course I'm going to be the first to ask you. Like, I want to know the test results.
And the fact that she was laughing was great to me. Like, that was such a relief. And so she's like, well, let's get in the living room and we'll talk about it. And so we went into the living room, and she sat down in this armchair in the corner, and when all of us kind of spread out on the couch. And we just kind of looked at us for a little bit, smiled, and it was nice seeing my mom, after so many, like a couple of years now of her having cancer, to sit down, we have test results, this is it. And she just said, I have cancer in my liver. And her voice cracked when she said liver, which I didn't know necessarily that it meant it was inoperable, but the way she said it, I knew subconsciously it was terminal. There wasn't anything the Mayo Clinic could do anymore. And she proceeded to talk about that. She had cancer in her liver. You can't remove a liver.
She told us that she wasn't going to pursue chemo because the time that she would spend doing that, losing her hair, would just be more time away from us. And in the end, it would, the time would be about the same that she would be on this earth. So her and my dad decided that they were going to start pursuing holistic medicine down in Tijuana, New Mexico. And they were going to go down there for a couple months. And, eventually we would join them as kind of like a family vacation or something.
My dad and her flew out to Tijuana, Mexico, about maybe a month later. And they had already spent a lot of money on all of this, all these operations. They had borrowed a lot of money for these operations at the Mayo Clinic. And they decided to go to Tijuana, Mexico, and seek alternative treatment. And about a weekend, they told us we were going to go visit them in Tijuana and have a vacation. And about a weekend, they said they were coming back. They came back, and they just said Mom was miserable. She couldn't move. She had no energy. They had her on an all-liquid diet. She just could not stand it, and could not stand being so far away from her family, and especially her kids. So it was nice to have her back at home, but it also meant it was giving up in a way to me. I felt lied to. I felt like she wasn't trying as hard as she could be. But I also understood in a way, and especially now I do.
And then about, I think maybe it was about a week later, out of the 2 months, my dad called and said they were coming back. And I was really irate on the phone, and I was angry because I felt like she was just giving up. She was just saying, no, I don't care about you or your brother. I'm done with this. I'm done trying. She was just giving up on life. And I was mad at her for a long time for just giving up so quickly on this, pursuing this holistic medicine down in Mexico. So she came back, and so instead of pursuing the chemo, they hired a hospice nurse.
So instead, we got a hospice nurse to come by, and to me that meant a nurse at home. But now I know more. It's more an easier way to die at home. I didn't necessarily know she was going to die, but I did at the same time. I think at those last 2 weeks of her life, her being confined to a hospital bed in our living room, and pretty much being dead in a way. She couldn't really talk. If she did talk, it was mumbling. She had cold sores all over her mouth. Her stomach got really
big.
bloated. She looked like
she was
maybe 8 months pregnant.
Maybe. She got these terrible sores on her lips.
Really a strange sight to see. She was she had a deathly pallor about her. It was hard to see her confined to that. I didn't see her move at all. I think I saw her sitting on the couch once, and she was just pretty much sleeping, just kind of swaying from side to side, not really seeing us.
I think maybe once I saw her out of bed, she was just kind of sitting there on the couch, just swaying back and forth, just somebody caught in this hypnotic trance, just not really seeing anything that was going on. And it just it terrified me.
In the middle of the night, one night, at the end of the 2 weeks that she was in her hospital bed, our dad came upstairs to my brothers and I and woke us all up and said, "Your mom passed in the night."
Maybe a couple weeks later, my brother and I were asleep, and my dad came into the room, and he told us that our mom had passed away in the middle of the night.
And I remember him saying that it was probably going to happen in these next couple days, so we expected it. I was happy to see her lying in a hospital bed, not moving, not seeing, not hearing really, not talking. That's painful, and it's awkward.
And our brother and I, we'd kind of known that she would be dying in the next couple days because our dad had told us, but we still weren't quite ready for it. And so he took us down to the living room.
The thing that's weird to me is I don't remember if I said goodbye to my dead mother or if she was already out of the house, taken by the funeral directors at that time. I have no recollection of that at all. All I do remember is my dad saying that before she passed, she had this last burst of energy, and she kind of sat up as much as she could in her hospital gurney.
He told us in the middle of the night, around 2 o'clock in the morning, she'd woken up and gained this these few seconds of clarity. She raised her head up from the pillow, and she looked at my dad in the eye, and she said, "Dave." And he took her hand, and she grabbed his hand and just and clutched it really hard. And tears just started coming out of her eyes. And she said, "Dave, tell Riley and Tyler that I'm gonna miss them when I'm gone." And then she closed her eyes, and she just she laid back down on the pillow, and she just finally was at peace.
And held out her hand, and I don't remember, I think she might have even tried to say Dave, which is my dad's name. And he was right there with her standing up, and he held her hand in his, and she looked at him and breathed a sigh of relief and just laid down in her bed, and then she was gone. And that to me is really powerful, that she had that, she knew it was coming, and she had that last burst of energy.
I guess that's just that's really powerful for me.
Powerful to me. I think the last thing I want to talk about is going to her visitation. I didn't cry at all that night and then that she died. I didn't cry at her visitation. In fact, a lot of times I take breaks from standing up so long because it's a 6-hour visitation. As an 11-year-old, you cannot stand through that. So I go to the break room and eat food and laugh with my cousins. I probably laughed more than I had in a long time that day. I had a great time. Seeing my mother in her casket wasn't really real to me. If you've ever seen someone embalmed and with cosmetics all over their face, it's the most disappointing thing you could ever see. Like, it's supposed to be peaceful to see them at rest, but it looks like a different person. It doesn't look like the person you remembered, and especially seeing her with a bloated stomach and cold sores all over her mouth. Like, it's refreshing to not see that, but it's disappointing to see, like, that's not this person. This is not what they went through. Like, they might be at peace now, but you don't even see any remnants of the cancer. Like, it's not real. I didn't cry until her funeral. We did the service and we went to the cemetery, and Father Botkin gave the rest of the service outside. It was January. And my cousin, he was 12 years older than me, after the service just walked up to me, and everyone was crying, everyone was emotional, and I was just kind of standing there. I'm this 11-year-old, like, I don't really know what to do. And he turned to me and just was bawling, and he said, "I'm so sorry, man." And we had just been laughing the night before, and that's when it really hit me, that she's gone and everyone else is recognizing it, and it's time that I should recognize it too.